Hi y'all. Before we begin today's video, I wanted to tell you that it's that time of year again where the nonprofit animal shelter that I'm a member of the board of is holding a big annual fundraiser called the Poop Show. It is an interesting game that we came up with in 2020 in the midst of COVID when we couldn't really do any fundraising in person. And we let an animal out into a yard marked with squares, and wherever it poops, that square that it pooped on wins this year $15,000. Tickets are $50 a piece. I'll put a link in a pinned comment below if you're interested in donating. Several of you have done that over the past several years, and I'm really thankful for that. You can tell them that Matthew or the Southerners Northern Garden sent you. It's open to anyone in the United States, and so if you win, you can watch it live. There's kind of a big production every year, and you can watch it live, and if you win, you will of course be sent the money that you won, which will be $15,000 minus taxes. Animals, as you know, have a big place in my heart. I have 3 doggies myself, Margot, Lewis, and Lily, and they're loving this property, but there are a lot of animals out there that need loving homes, and Sixa does a wonderful job caring for those until they find their forever home. So if you're like me and you love animals, I'd appreciate it. Thank you to all of you who have supported that in the past, and to any of you who will support it this year. It's a really big fundraiser for the organization. It's one of the biggest fundraisers of the year for them, and they are eternally grateful, and you'll make the pups incredibly happy to help feed and give them shelter for as long as they're available for adoption at Sixa. Well, I've been taking it pretty easy today, and it's actually really overcast, so I need to get out here and do some stuff this afternoon, get maybe a few more things planted, but we got most of the trees planted yesterday. The guy came with an auger and a crew of 2 other guys, and we got it knocked out in like 2.5 hours, and it looks really beautiful. We didn't plant the red point maples or one of the blue spruces or the blue junipers, because I'm not sure where I'm going to put those yet, but you can see we got everything else in the ground. There's a couple yews left over. I planted those yews over there. I'll take you over there and show you those. And these arborvitae here that I was talking about in the last video. Everything just looks really good. So what I'm doing, I watered everything in really, really well yesterday. I'm going to leave it like this for probably a couple weeks, keep them watered. And then I'm going to come through and clean up this area and mulch the trees. I want to make sure that there's sufficient water on these and give them time to settle. I don't want to do too much mulching until we get all the settling in place and I can move the dirt around as it settles, because as I watered in some stuff yesterday, there was a whole lot of settling of some of the ground, particularly around this London plane tree. So our neighbor had told us that the soil is better towards the back side of our property based on what he's seen on his own. So you can see here, pretty good stuff actually in a lot of places. Back here at the back though, it's very gravelly, kind of sandy. We live kind of close to a gravel pit, so there's a lot of gravel here, and we're on top of an aquifer, so there's a lot of rock. I'm hoping the plane tree does pretty well out here. We're going to keep it watered for a while, of course, but you can see how gritty this is down here. But I think it'll be happy in the end. We keep enough water on it. Some of the trees may also lean a little bit. We corrected this one yesterday, but after it's settled a little more, it's leaning a little bit. So I'll take my tractor and pull on it just slightly with a rope to see if I can tweak it that way, just some. And then we'll be good to go. But I'm liking the placement of everything so far. From this direction, you can see the boxwood really good. I did shoot a video, or I thought I shot a video of me cutting the string on this. It wasn't quite as fluffy as I thought it was going to be. It's kind of very upright, which is nice. Nice structure against this wall. Covers at least half the wall, which is nice. And it's pretty nicely rounded. I'll of course come through and do some trimming on it to make it pretty even all over as I start doing those over there. There is a slight gap here in it, but I'm thinking about planting some pufferfish hydrangeas that I have back there on either side. So pufferfish there, and then probably one over there just to kind of for some symmetry. We'll see. I don't have much room over there by the time I get in one of these conical U's. I'm going to try and get this area situated this week sometime. But I also got in the Rising Sun Redbud, which is looking really nice here. It's a smaller redbud, so it'll be fine in that location and be really pretty and a nice impact. And everything else I think is looking really good. So what I need to focus on now is getting some more cardboard and finishing out this bed. Interestingly enough, yesterday morning when I woke up on Saturday, I got a notification from Chip Drop that I would be receiving a pile of wood chips within the next 48 hours, and they actually showed up a couple hours later. So I have wood chips to use in the garden, so I'm going to be mulching the trees out in the front yard that are not in the flower bed with wood chips. I may need to get some more mulch to finish off this bed, because I obviously don't want to mix the mulch and wood chips now that I've started the bed. And then we have the arborvitae down here, which actually look really good. Keeping those watered, and they'll settle in some more, and of course. And then in the spring, what I'm thinking about doing is getting a couple more maybe and planting them, not necessarily in the center. That'll give us time to grind these stumps, but maybe back a little bit. I may just plant them in a row, and then we'll have 3 large ones and 2 smaller ones, maybe another one on the end here, to kind of eventually create some more privacy. They won't be exactly the same size, but I want to get through spring first and see how those do before I start doing too much planting. I did have a lot of viewers say that their experience with green giants, deer don't tend to bother them, which is a good sign, and I have heard that as well. And I've also heard that emerald greens tend to be bothered a lot by deer. So I'll probably have to find an alternative to emerald green if I want to use any of those. Those did really good at my last house, but so did green giants. You know, I had a hedge of, they were like 26, but I think I added some more at the end, so I had almost 30 at my last home. And this is what's left over. So we've got the red point maples and this Kellaliri juniper here, which kind of looks like it's been blown by the wind. It's kind of interesting looking, but I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet. I might stick it somewhere in the back fence area, but now that I have wood chips, I didn't think I'd be able to get to it, but I want to start work on the bed on the other side of the fence over there beside the Japanese maple after I get the front settled, because that will be an easy, quick one that I can do and put some of these hydrangeas and things that I have over there that'll look really nice next spring, hopefully. Now, I had become pretty desperate for a chip drop several weeks ago, and I changed my drop-off requests to say that I would include some logs in my chips if I could get them sooner. And I was concerned, after having done that and I already got mulch, that this one would be dropped with logs, and it was not. But the chips look really good. I've already requested another one just in case I get another one. And I know I've had some viewers say they've not had good experience with chip drop, but this is what I ended up getting. So there's lots of leaves in there, which is good. And it looks really, really nice. And what I don't have and don't use can hang over until spring, of course. So it's quite possible that I may get all of this spread on the ground before spring. But I'm really happy with the results I got from this one, and it smells really good too, because these were clearly freshly shredded yesterday or the day before. I am really thankful after getting all the trees here that I had help planting them. I would have never been able to plant some of those, seeing how hard the rock was in the area, even in this bed where I'm going to be planting. I think this is where a lot of the gravel, kind of when they were building the house and stuff, got left over, or the sub base or something. But where this Kindred Spirit oak was planted, there's a lot of rock around here. I've got to come and move out, and we'll work on that over the next several weeks. I'm not in a huge rush to get it up, other than I want to finish this bed pretty quickly so I can move on with other projects. But now that these things are in the ground, I won't have to focus on watering them nearly every day, and hopefully we will start to get some rain. We were supposed to get a little rain yesterday or today. No rain at all. It is a little cloudy. I guess potentially it could still come today, but I'm not hopeful. These, I told you, are dwarf globe arborvitae is what they were labeled as. I looked up online and I think they're the same as those little giants that I had at my other property, which I really loved. So I think that's just an alternative name for them. I'm not sure yet. One's a little bigger than the other, but that's okay. I put this one over here on this side, and they'll eventually grow to about the same size. And they should kind of be perfect little spheres here to cap the end of this. You know, my original intentions here were to kind of put a hydrangea standard right here, but I think it would eventually get too big and I don't want to impede anything going into the garage. So I'm going to put a blue arrow juniper right here most likely. They stay really skinny. They grow pretty quickly. I had one in my last garden and they're very upright. 2 to 3 foot wide I think is all they get, so they'll be a perfect there, and I can plant around annuals in this spot. I want to get a Mugo pine for this area. I don't know that I'll do that this fall. If I can find a nice specimen, I might. Still want to get some arborvitae out there to put here, which are Fire Chief, I think what I'm going to go with, a trio. And then most of the perennials, of course, are going to be planted in the spring as I get some in, and it will take probably several seasons to get this bed filled in. There's a lot of planting space here. There's probably as much planting space here in this bed as there may have been in half of my other garden. So it'll take a while to fill in. No particular rush, but I did want to get the trees in the garden and as many shrubs as I can in early, because those things are the things that take as long or longer to settle in, and the quicker you can plant a tree, the happier it will be, because the first year they sleep, second year they creep, and the third year they leap. And I have found that very much to be true. So next year there's probably not going to be a whole lot happening with these trees. They may struggle a little bit if we continue to have droughts like this. I'll try and put them on drip. Especially these in the bed will definitely be on drip. Those further out, I've considered trenching a small area and putting a drip line in the ground to feed them with drip. I'm not sure if I will do that or not. We'll have to see. It shouldn't be an issue this fall. We've only got a couple more months that they'll need to be watered depending on the weather. We've had a relatively mild September so far, but it still has been very dry and we've still not had any rain. So that's something to keep in mind if you're planting this time of year. This is the great time to plant so plants can get settled in for winter, but you still need to water things depending on where you are. As long as the ground is not frozen, it's good to water. So if you're in warmer zones where the ground potentially doesn't freeze at all, that's something to consider, that if it's an evergreen particularly, because they continue to photosynthesize throughout winter, that you want to keep those watered over winter best you can. Deciduous stuff does go dormant, but you still want to keep those watered until they lose all their leaves and until we get pretty far into winter or the ground freezes, depending on where you are. I've had a lot of people ask me about what I'm going to do here with this rock. I've mentioned in several videos, although not any of the recent ones, that I will be removing this eventually, and that's probably going to be a winter project because it's going to be quite a lot of work. There's rubber mulch mixed in here with the stone. I don't tend to like a rock used as a mulch, and there's landscape fabric underneath there, so it might be a little easier to remove since it's not incorporated with the ground. But my goal in this spot, although it probably won't happen next year for budget reasons, but I would like to put a fountain here right up front. But I might plant just a ton of sun patience in this area and deck it out for next year is what I'm thinking right now. It's a pretty shape to just kind of fill with color. And then as I get a fountain, because I want a bigger fountain than I had at my last house for here. My thoughts were originally to put a fountain over here, but I think I'm going to fill all that with plants. So over here, I've got easy access to a hose that I can fill it up easily. And it's a nice size here that one could fit right here in the center if I wanted it. And then I could plant up on either side of it. And would be a really lovely sound when you come into the home down the sidewalk. What I do love about this property are the several established trees that I can sit under and just kind of relax or think, look out at the garden. I did get a very cheap bench, when I say cheap, like $30, to put under this tree, which some of you noticed in the Instagram video that I shared yesterday. That's to sit here and play with the dogs, but also kind of to sit down and think, and I can look at the garden and plan out things under the shade of this nice maple we have here. Beautiful canopy. I was hoping to get even the yews, the conical yews in the ground today, but after yesterday was so busy yet so productive, I decided to take it a little easy today. So I think I'm going to start that project this week after work. And I can do a little bit in the evenings because the sun sets on the back side of our house, and so it'll be shady in the front when I get home. And if it takes me a little while, that's fine. It was incredibly hard to dig the holes that I hand dug and planted some things back here, the smaller stuff, because the lack of rain we've had. So I had to pre-moisten the spot, and I might do that today. I might let the water run where I'm going to be planting those things. And that way the ground can absorb some of that for tomorrow, so there's not a muddy mess when I start digging. Thank you guys for joining me. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care. Bye.